Hey guys, I hope you are having a great week so far. So last week we started a new series called Go, and we learned how Jesus gave the disciples the Great Commission to go forth and make disciples of all nations. This week I just have a few verses for you, but it tells us of how the Holy Spirit comes to the disciples, and this is going to allow them to be able to go and tell other people about Jesus, okay? We're going to find this story in the book of Acts, chapter 2. The book of Acts is found in the New Testament following the Gospels. It tells what happens to the disciples after Jesus returns to heaven. You kind of get to see their story and how the early churches started. Okay? So Acts chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. When the day of Pentecost came, they were all together in one place. Suddenly a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. They saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and came to rest on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them. How cool is that? So, we see that they're all together, and it says on the day of Pentecost. That's another holiday that the Jewish people celebrated, and it happens about 50 days after Passover. So all these people were together again. Then we hear that a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house. So if you want to do it with me, make a violent wind go. A violent wind came. Now, you can imagine to do it, but if you are like me and you live in South Dakota, today is a really windy day. So I can't see the wind, but I can see what it's doing, and I can definitely hear it today. But imagine that, the Holy Spirit coming down from heaven and arriving in the room. Then they saw what was to be little tongues of fire that sit over top of their heads. Isn't that crazy? The tongues help them have the boldness and confidence they need to be able to share the gospel with other people. When we think of tongues, we've got our tongues. That's what they use that as a representation. And they can use that also when it says tongues as the Spirit enabled them. Tongues also means different languages. So they not only receive that boldness and that confidence from having the Holy Spirit with them, but now they have the ability to share it with anybody. It says, as the Spirit enabled them. What's really cool about that is that it's not just one group of people that gets to hear about Jesus. It's all of these people. And if we have to include all of those people, that means anybody who speaks different languages and lives other places than we do. So that's just really cool. And it made me think of a couple things about why the Holy Spirit is so special. One is that the Holy Spirit is the Spirit of God. When God created everything in the very beginning, he had Jesus, God the Son, and God the Father with him, and also God the Holy Spirit. They were all together, and it's part of his perfect plan. When we have God's Spirit with us, there's nothing that we can't do. Two, that when God gives us something to do, he's not going to leave us alone to do it. He is going to give us a helper to do that, and that's exactly what the Holy Spirit is. Jesus had prepared the disciples, and you see that through different parts of the Gospels, that he was preparing them for when he wasn't going to be there. They were brought alongside of him to, get to know them and be a part of all of this, but their real task was just beginning here in the book of Acts. They were to go make the church and build it and tell other people about Jesus. And so he doesn't just tell them that they were off on their own. He tells them that they were going to do it, but that he had someone to be there with him, which was the Holy Spirit. 3, the Holy Spirit guides us and directs us and comforts us. Because it is the Spirit of God, it can help us with all kinds of things. It can give us the confidence and boldness we need to share the gospel with others, but it also can be a comforter. So kind of like, see how fuzzy and soft this is? Or think about somebody that you love that's dear and close that gives you just a great hug, or somebody that helps you when you're sad, or you're feeling lonely. The Holy Spirit does that as well. Jesus felt those things too. God made emotions, and he also is there to help us and comfort us through them. The Holy Spirit dwells with us. It says they were filled with the Holy Spirit, which means that if we choose to follow Jesus, we get to have that Spirit of God with us all the time. And so no matter where we go, if we go here or there, the Holy Spirit's going to be there with us. And I think that's a wonderful thing, isn't it? So I bet the disciples were pretty excited for this to finally happen. Jesus told them that it was going to happen and that it was going to come. But if you've noticed in the Bible, sometimes a time frame is not given when that's going to happen. We have to trust and we have to wait. And that's what they were doing. And it came at the perfect time. If we look a little bit further in chapter 2 of the book of Acts, we see that people are just amazed because they heard the sound of the wind coming down and heard people speaking different languages. But some other people thought that maybe they were just crazy or being silly. And Peter gets up, one of the disciples, and addresses the crowd and begins to tell them about what had happened and tells the gospel, tells about God and tells about Jesus. And by the end of it, guess what happens? It says that about 3,000 were added to their number that day, meaning 3,000 people gave their lives to the Lord that day. It happened almost instantly. They heard all of this stuff going on and they're like, what is this? And in that moment, 3,000 people came to the Lord that day. And it could have been people from all over the place. Imagine that. So we know that it's a powerful and wonderful thing to be able to have that here. We also know that when we are given a task by the Lord, that he's not going to leave us alone, that the Holy Spirit, the helper, is here to help us and to be with us. Okay? So I have one more thing to show you. See my pinwheel? Now I have that in your crafts and stuff today, so you can try one out too if you'd like, a pinwheel. But the pinwheel is here, and say the pinwheel is kind of like us. A pinwheel can be built and designed any way we like it to, just like God created us to be built and designed unique like we are. And it has everything that works with it. But what if we wanted to go and do something else? Now, the pinwheel needs the action to be able to make it spin, right? So in order to make it spin, we need to add a little bit of wind. We can't see wind, but we know that it's there because the pinwheel's spinning it. It's spinning by it. Ready? There it goes. I love pinwheels. They're so much fun, aren't they? They're so happy. And when you decorate them and stuff, they make cool designs too. Off subject though. What I like about this is that if we think about ourselves as a pinwheel and we think of me blowing on the pinwheel like the wind, kind of like the Holy Spirit, we see that we are now given the ability to be able to function the way that we were designed. So we are designed to bring God glory and joy. We are also designed to, when we choose to follow him, to share others with him. And when he gives us the Holy Spirit, when we follow him, we get to really be able to be who we are, just like this pinwheel. He's not meant to sit here and just be sad and not moving. He's meant to go. Oh my goodness, he jumped right off his straw, didn't he? We are meant to go forth and be able to tell others with that. And we don't have to do that alone because God is there with us. So this week, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to look for ways that the Holy Spirit is in your life. I want you to spend time maybe saying a prayer or thinking about different times in your life that God took care of you. And you get to see little bits and pieces and evidence of where he is in your life, okay? Now, I hope you guys have a great day. And moms, I hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day. I'm so thankful for all of you and your families that you have here, and I hope you have a great Sunday together, okay? Have a great week, guys. See you soon.